Utah is changing, faster than at any time in our history. Our communities, our politics, our economy, and our identity are all shifting at once. And the decisions being made today will shape the next 50 years. That's why Wake Up Utah was created. A place where real conversations happen in the open. No scripts, no spin, no noise. Just clarity, courage, and truth. Who is running Utah? This is where Utah comes to think, to question, and to understand the forces shaping our future. Welcome to Wake Up Utah.
And today I'm actually honored to be interviewing Jeremy Hales. Jeremy Hales is running for sheriff in Wasatch. Done a lot of research on you. I like a lot of the things on your website. Your website is actually very impressive. I think you were telling me earlier it was you and your cousin?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep, he helped me build it.
All right. Well, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started.
Sure.
Okay,
Thanks
so I'm
for
going
letting me be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. So the first question that I have is, why did you decide to run for sheriff in Wasatch?
So really, to be honest, my goal to run for sheriff was set a long time ago with some previous sheriffs, Sheriff Van Wagner, who helped me get introduced into law enforcement and into the political office of sheriff. And so I had the opportunity to work as a delegate and go out there and help him in his campaign. And so I saw the value of what that is. And I've always wanted it, since working with Sheriff Van Wagner, I've always had a great desire to go there and work in that position and help bring a different perspective to Wasatch once I got the experience and the time that I needed to in order to share my experience and knowledge with the citizens. So that's where it all started. And then as I've moved throughout my career, more and more opportunities to lead and to help grow my leadership experience have been very, very important to me. And I think have helped mold me into a way that I can successfully run a campaign to be the sheriff of Wasatch County and provide a great service to the citizens of Wasatch.
Okay. And you have over 2 decades, 25 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you for your service here. And prior to that, what did you do prior to becoming
Prior to working in the law enforcement career, I worked in the irrigation industry. Oh. So I worked for Harwood Irrigation, and I helped put in big irrigation pivots all across the state of Utah.
Okay, all right.
So for agricultural use.
And are you raised in Utah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Spanish Fork City.
Spanish Fork.
And my parents and brother and sister still live there and their families, but we moved up here in 2001 when Sheriff Spanos hired me to work as a deputy sheriff.
Wow. Okay. Quite impressive.
Thank you.
Next question, Jeremy. What differentiates your style of leadership from the current administration?
I think what sets me different from the current administration is that I'm very service oriented. I want to serve. I want to be out there and working with the deputies, working with the citizens, and providing a good service. I feel like being present and being seen in the community is very important to me, and that's the difference in the leadership style that I'll bring. I think you'll see a lot more of me out in the community if the citizens choose me to be their sheriff.
Okay, all right, I like that. So follow-up question, what would you change and what would you leave the same from the current administration?
That's a great question. What would I change? The things I would change is I want to provide a great training opportunity environment for the deputies, because law enforcement is ever changing. The way we did business 25 years ago is different than the way we're doing business today, the way we investigate crimes, the way we work through the process of going through that, the way we provide correctional services, how we use search and rescue, the way we dispatch, all of those things have changed. And so we need to keep on that cutting edge of training and empowering our deputies to continue that training and achieve their goals. There's a lot of things that we do very well right now. And some of those things are, we have good camaraderie within the department. The deputies they work together well, they work hard, they're a team. And that's the one thing that I really appreciate that. I'd like to continue our contracts that we have in place. That's one thing that we want to keep those contracts in place, but I also want to renew, but bring the contracts back that we've lost, and also allow us to enhance the contracts that we currently have with our folks out there in the community and our neighboring partners.
Okay, so for someone like me that might not even know what those contracts are, just give me an example of like a contract that you would want to renew. So
one I'd like to renew is with Charleston and with Midway.
Okay.
We don't provide all of our law enforcement services. Prior to a year and a half ago, I think, I might be wrong on that time frame, but it's a little over a year ago, Midway City chose to use Heber City to provide their law enforcement services. And I want to see the sheriff's office come back there and provide those services, as well as providing services to the town of Charleston as well, and have those good interactions. That's important for me. Contracts with our Forest Service, contracts with correctional facilities where we can house inmates from the state or from federal jurisdictions are also important to keep, because that does help our economy. It does help what we have going on in our correctional facility. And so contracts are important because that's what offsets costs that help provide less impacts to citizens' tax dollar.
Okay, so you mentioned something that was, so I'm originally from Charleston, small little town over there, and we moved here last July after we sold our house. So, and I want to say, I thought it was like the sheriff's department that I would always see kind of manning, if we had an issue on that public day pass. But what differentiates like the Heber City Police Department from the sheriff's department?
So what differentiates the Heber City Police Department from us is their jurisdiction is within the city limits of Heber. The sheriff has the jurisdiction of the entire county. And so the city police department is taken care of by the citizens of Heber. Their chief is appointed individual. Chief Sever is appointed by the mayor and the city council, where the sheriff is elected, as we're talking about today, and we have the current race going on. But it's the sheriff's jurisdiction to provide law enforcement services outside of those that have not. Those that they're already municipal development. So they're a municipality, and they have decided to have their own police department, and that's what we want them. That's the difference between the sheriff doesn't provide day-to-day law enforcement services there. They'll come in and support if need be, but for the most part, we let the city do their work, and then if they need our support, great, we'll come and support them. But vice versa, that's a nice thing about the Wasatch Back, is the city comes and supports the county. The state parks down there, as you talked about just a few minutes ago in your question, we'll go and support the state parks, because of Deer Creek State Park and the Charleston Beach access there. We'll go in there if they need our help. We'll go in there and support them. The state park of Deer Creek has their own law enforcement, but we can supplement or supplant their law enforcement services as well.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, I'm not actually Heber City, but I guess I'm a township of Heber. So am I like the sheriff's department if we were to have an issue, or is it Heber City Police?
Where you are right now, you would be the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Yep, where we're currently sitting today, that would be the sheriff's jurisdiction.
All right. Well,
because it's outside of Heber City.
Okay, I'll make sure to call you when I lose a chicken.
Exactly.
All right, next question. What role should a sheriff play in protecting constitutional rights? And I did look at your website, and looks like you're a Second Amendment, and I like that. So that's kind of why this question is important to a lot of us.
Yeah, the Second Amendment is a big deal. The right to bear arms is important. I've always, and to do it legally and lawfully, to have that right to bear those arms. And it's a God-given right that's been there for a long time. And I want to make sure that we have that. It's nice that we get to protect those rights, and the citizens can legally and lawfully, that have that capability, that they can legally and lawfully have their arms on them, then that's great. I respect that. Those that don't, then they need to be held accountable for that. But even to take it further, our First Amendment rights is important, so that people have the right to free speech. We've seen a lot of protests and stuff come up in recent years, and letting people have their right to speak their mind and do it in a peaceful way, not in a contentious way, but in a peaceful way, is important to let those folks share their thoughts. And then, the one that we're talking about here very soon is our 23rd Amendment that gives us the right to vote, everybody the right to vote. And that's an important thing right now, is to let people know that June 23rd, they need to get out there and vote for their persons that they want to have in those positions. It's important.
Right.
And in this primary.
So, question for you on that. And I do have a couple questions on that. What's your stance on voter IDs and showing your license when you go to vote? Because for me, when you're traveling, you can't get on an airplane without showing your license or passport. So can you speak openly on what your stance is on voting in person and having to show your driver's license?
Those that vote in person and they show their driver's license, I think it's neat that you asked that question. Yesterday, I received a call from the clerk's office because my signature wasn't correct. Because I used my driver's license.
It's happening to you too. Then
and so it happened to me.
Okay.
And it happened to me yesterday. So I had the opportunity to go down to the county clerk's office and clarify that my signature was actually my signature that I put on my ballot because I mailed mine in. But I had to show my ID. So they showed that it matched my signature that they had on the computer.
Okay.
And then I had to fill out a form that said, hey, I'm Jeremy Hales. I live at this address and this is my driver's license number and all that. So that was good. I mean, I think it's important, that we show that, hey, we are citizens and we have those rights again. That's what goes back to that, that we have to say, hey, I'm a citizen and I have the right to vote, and I've done so by having the credentials to do so.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm glad it's happening to you too. So there's a lot of controversy on ICE and ICE detainers.
Mm-hmm.
What is your stance on this, as we do know that we do have issues in Wasatch? And I think the current administration covers it up a little bit, like we don't have problems. But I know that, the owner of Coinzo, and for a gentleman who worked for Coinzo, that they would watch busloads. This was probably last year when we did an event with Sheriff Rigby at Charleston. I hosted it with some of my Patriot colleague friends. But they were firsthand seeing busloads of illegals being brought in, and actually they could see them getting off right across from their business. So with that kind of long-winded conversation there, what's your stance on ICE and ICE detainers? So
ICE, we need to work with Immigration's Custom Enforcement. We need to work with them because of our correctional facility. It's important that we do, because when we have an illegal immigrant that's come in, and they have a detainer, then we need to make sure that we notify Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, or ICE. I believe in legal immigration. I believe strongly in that. There's a lot of great legal immigrants that are here, and I appreciate the good work that they do and what they bring back to Wasatch County specifically, and to each city and town that we have. I've had the privilege of working with several of them and associating with them. But to take it one step further, we need to work with Immigrations and Custom Enforcement. I don't think that we should go out there with ICE detainers and go knock on. We don't have that right to do that. It's not a document that allows us to go and do searches and seizures because it violates their Fourth Amendment right.
But if they're illegal, do they have a Fourth Amendment in the United States? If they're here and they snuck in over the border, Not the legal ones, not the
Right.
ones.
Well, they don't, but how do we prove that? And so I can't go in and I just don't feel like it's our job. We're not federal agents. We're not going, I'm not going to allow the deputies to go out there and enforce those rules.
Would you allow the detainers to come in if they knew? And I'm kind of, I'm a lot like you. I feel that there have been some illegals that have been, and they're really good people. I wish there was like a short track path for them to either have to go back to their country, but then they can turn around and come back in, because there are a lot of good ones. But if we went into Mexico illegally, we'd probably, one, have our heads decapitated. We would be kicked out immediately if we weren't put in prison. So if ICE knew for a fact that there was a murderer or a rapist living in our county that would affect our children, our grandchildren, would you allow them to come in if they came in and said, okay, Sheriff, here's what I have, here is the proof, we need to take this person?
Again, we got to have probable cause. So to me, and working with we'd also need to work with our legal team and make sure that we're meeting those elements, because I'm not going to violate, because when you cross that threshold and go in there and pull somebody out without probable cause, because the detainer doesn't give you probable cause, it just gives you the right to detain somebody from a federal standpoint. It doesn't give us probable cause to go in to somebody's home without reason to go in there. We've got to have a judge's signed warrant to go in there. That's for me, that's important, because we have the right to be secure in our homes and our places.
Right.
And even though they may be illegal, and yes, that we have those heinous crimes that we just spoke of, I still feel like it's important that we have probable cause, that we know beyond a reasonable doubt that this person has committed this crime, has done these things, and we have to take them. Then if that's the case and we have a warrant signed by a magistrate and it's approved, then yes, but not just on the detainer itself.
Okay.
That would come from the court side.
Fair enough. That makes sense. What does your oath of office mean to you?
It means everything. The oath of office is we are your sheriff. We're your law enforcement, and it's important for us at the sheriff to go out there and support your constitutional rights, to defend your freedoms, and to protect this community. Even to take it a step further, it's also, we house a correctional facility that protects the rights of our incarcerated individuals, where we don't violate their rights. They have those rights as well. And making sure that we don't infringe on those. But as the oath of office of the sheriff, it's important that we're out there to serve the people and provide the best public safety service that we possibly can.
Okay, I like that. So imagine it's 4 years from now. What would have to happen for you to look back and say, I was a successful sheriff?
Well, that's a loaded question. But to look back is, that we had good relationships. We had strong camaraderie with our partnering agencies. We've been accountable to the public. We've had open door meetings. We've had community meetings where the public can come and talk to us, and that they can share their concerns. They can talk to the sheriff and have that dialogue. That to me would be a success, to let the citizens come and have their time to talk. And so to come back and look 4 years that we were open, we were transparent, we were accountable. We let the people know what we could let them know without disclosing personal things in our investigations that we're currently working on. But it's just being open and transparent and having that accountability to the public. That would be a success to me.
Okay. What have you done in the last 25 years as your biggest success, and what would you have changed for something you felt was not successful?
Well, I'll answer the second part of the question first. I've been a very black and white kind of person, and that's something that I need to work on every single day. I'm very black and white. It's either You did it or you didn't. And I haven't found a lot of gray area in my work. And that's something that I found, that there can be some gray area in public safety. We can just warn somebody. When I first came out, I was always, I could write tickets after ticket after ticket, but that always wasn't the answer. Sometimes we had to use that discretion to my benefit, and I've learned that, and I have to continue to learn that every day. Sometimes I have to take a tactical pause. Excuse me. But I have to take that pause and just say, are we getting everything that we need from this decision? Is the juice worth the squeeze? As far as some of the successes that I feel like have helped me, being a DARE officer in the schools was one of the most important things that I ever did in my career. I'm so grateful that Sheriff Van Wagner and Sheriff Bonner had allowed me to do that part of my career, working in the schools. Not only did I get to make good relationships with the students that were out there that I worked with on a daily basis, but I got to go in their classroom and teach them about harmful things. I got to talk to them about the DARE decision-making model, where they were able to, take care of their choices that they were making. They define their problems, assess their situations, respond, and evaluate their decisions. And it made me think every day, every decision that I make, I kind of use that same model where you're teaching it, you're working with the students, and then you use that back. But then I got to take it a step further and teach other officers across the country. And then I also had the opportunity, one step further, is I got to facilitate it for the state of Utah. And so we brought DARE students from across the nation, other law enforcement officers, how to go in and teach the wonderful children that come and take our place one day.
Wow. All right. That's a lot. I remember DARE when I was in grade school. We were mostly afraid of them. But good for you on that one. And then, so will you support and defend the Constitution and the people?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Are you willing not to support a law that goes against the Constitution?
So, we don't get to pick and choose our laws. The legislature makes those laws. We have to enforce them. But that's where we have to go back and work with our legislators. We've got to work with the Utah Sheriff's Association and our lobbyists. And so to say that I won't defend or I won't uphold a law that is put in place that goes against the Constitution, I hope that we never have to come to that. Honestly, I hope that we don't have to say that it's not something that would violate. I hope that gets caught really early in the legislative process and it gets booted right off the bat. But I think that we need to make sure that when those statutes come out and they come up, that we need to be a very vocal voice for the people and say, this is not right. We don't, because I feel like the Sheriff's Association in the state of Utah has a lot of good that comes from these women and men that are part of that association, the sheriffs, and people listen to them, and these lobbyists listen to them. And so that's where I'm at with, I hope we never have to come to that case, that we have a law that would come up and violate our constitutional rights, because that's not what we're here for. We don't want that. We all stand for that. Every law enforcement officer goes out there to defend the Constitution every single day. And when we swear, we take that oath of office like we talked about, that we're going to uphold that Constitution.
Okay. So let me kind of further get into this question. So during the COVID pandemic, this is very controversial. There were some people who were, it's not about being forced to take the vaccine, but walking into a grocery store where I think violates, my opinion, violates my constitutional rights. But there were some stores that you couldn't walk in if you didn't have that. If there were to be another pandemic, where is your stance on forcing the citizens who are going to vote you into office mandating masks?
So that's a great question. I had the opportunity to work in the COVID response here in Wasatch County. And if people chose not to wear their masks for whatever reason, I'm not going to go out there and tell them that they have to do that. That's their choice. Now, a private business owner, if they choose to refuse the right of service to somebody, that's their right as a business owner. But I can't, it's not my job to go out there and say, hey, you have to do this. It's a health order. It's a public health order put out by our public health officer, who we have asked to do certain things. If we choose not to do so, then that's our decision. And I will respect people's rights to not wear a mask. I had many people come up and say, are you going to make me get a vaccine? Absolutely not. Are we going to make you wear a mask? No, I'm not going to. I'm not out here to tell you.
Okay.
Am I wearing one? Yes, because I chose to.
Right.
I chose to.
Okay.
Not because I was told I had to. I chose to do it because I felt like it was my thing to do to keep myself healthy and keep others healthy. I didn't want to get sick. And I didn't want others to get sick because of when I was sick. In that regard, if people so choose, like we had several that came and said, "Can I please get this?" And I remember saying, "No, it's okay. You don't have to come through." We had a drive-up clinic. We were one of the only drive-up clinics in this state of Utah that was solely drive-up. We didn't have any, and people could come and go as they pleased.
Okay.
We wanted them to feel welcome, but we also wanted them to feel like they had a choice.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at with it. I just feel like if you don't want to wear a mask and you want to go to the grocery store, then don't wear it.
Right.
If they choose not to let you in, I can't stop that person
Right.
from
Okay.
refusing service. But
Okay, fair enough. So, new police officer coming in, some pandemic comes, forced vaccinations, you would be okay with a religious exemption for them not wanting to
sure,
get it?
it's
Okay.
their choice.
Okay.
It's my body. And I get to choose whether I want to have a vaccine or not. And we get that choice even today. Whether we want to vaccinate our children or we don't. That's our choice.
Okay.
And so I just feel like that's ours as a citizen. I'm not about doing that.
All right, fair enough. I like that answer personally. So your oath, is your oath to the people and not the governor?
It's to the people.
Okay,
Yeah, it's to Wasatch County.
okay. It's good to know. Next question, and these are my personal questions to you. And a couple of these came off your website. Can you tell me a bit about your community crime prevention plan and what your hopes are for it?
So my community crime prevention plan is, we do a lot of enforcement, but I'd like to see some non-enforcement things going on out there. And, being out there in the public, educating them, one example was that I would like to do is, we have educational opportunities where with the electric motorcycles, scooters, and those types of things. There's been a lot of change that came out on May 6th of this year. And there's going to be even more that comes out next year with regards to the use of those. And I think it's important that we get out there in the community and provide opportunities to, share our experience, our knowledge of what the law is and how it impacts our citizens, and both young and old alike. That's one thing, is getting out there and doing that. Community events are important to me. Being out in the public eye and building those strong relationships. I would like to see the DARE program to go back to the 5th grade. And I also would like to see it go in the middle school like it was. So have it 2 times.
Okay, all right. What formal annual trainings will you require of your deputies?
So we have to have a lot of annual trainings, but we have to have our CPR, our de-escalation, and we have to have that done every 3 years, but making sure that we keep up to date on that. Our mental health training, so that we work with those folks that have acute mental health related experiences in their life. We need to make sure that we're ready to deal with them on it when they need us. But also our firearms, our defensive tactics, those are important parts of that. Being physically fit is also important because it is demanding. And then the other thing is making sure that our officers' mental health is important. Making sure that they're taking care of themselves. We have a great program in place. And I feel like mental health is one of those things that I've been involved in a lot in law enforcement. And I haven't taken time for myself, but taking time for yourself is one of those that I've had to learn in the last few years. Like, you've got to take time for yourself and make sure that you're taking care of your own self.
Okay. So that kind of answered my next question, but I want to go a little bit more in depth. And I want to go a little bit more in depth because I'm into health and wellness, and I have a lot of colleagues actually across Utah. So we know that mental health is twofold. I mean, you could be in jail and not be a criminal, but be an alcoholic or an addict. My personal belief is those are not the people who belong or who need to go to prison. If you were elected, would you allow myself and some of my colleagues come in and talk about how food feeds the brain, and when it's depleted in some of these chemicals, which kind of steer somebody to make wrong decisions, wrong choices, would you be willing to, not only just for the criminals, but even for your deputies, not that you're going to force them not to eat McDonald's, but would you be willing to open for my group of certified health coaches to come in and just let you know this is what we are seeing, but more importantly, these are things that we can do to help burnout. That could really even help some of the people in jail who really, they're not violent criminals. They've got addiction, and I don't know if you have probably have been into the recovery centers. I mean, they feed them crap food. They feed them carbs, and there's always sugar, and there's sodas, and there's caffeine, which is really not feeding their brain. But kind of long-winded there. Would you be open just to listen to a few select few of us coaches to see what could benefit not only for the deputies, but even maybe some things that could happen for the people in jail that are not going to benefit from going to prison?
So I would be open to anything that can help anybody. When it comes to the correctional facility, we've got to make sure it follows the standards and best practices that the state of Utah has, and making sure, because where we do house not only county but state and federal inmates, we've got to make sure that it meets their criteria. So having that, we've got to make sure that we check those boxes, and then obviously that everybody has the choice to go and listen. But I think it's important that we have the opportunity to, listen to people from different, such as yourself and your team of colleagues, to understand more. I mean, how can you go wrong by understanding a different point of view or a different perspective? Let the deputies come in and look at those awesome opportunities that could be presented to themselves by your expertise and those of your colleagues. Within the correctional facility, if it meets the criteria and it meets within the programming, that term is used kind of inside of the correctional facility, but it has to meet certain criteria for that to happen. But if we make sure that we've met those criteria, and then we give the incarcerated individuals, the inmates, the opportunity to have a choice where they want to come in and participate, that's totally doable. But I'd have to do some research on the incarceration side, because I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Right.
But I'm not afraid to go and do the research and go ask the questions.
Okay. So then I guess the final comment is, why should we elect Jeremy Hales? And it's all you.
Well, thanks. The reason why I think you should elect Jeremy Hales for sheriff here in Wasatch County is I care about all of you. I care about every citizen in this county. I care about what you do. I care about what you want. And I want to keep you safe. I want to make sure that we're open and transparent, that we're honest, and that we provide accountability to you, that we provide opportunities for you to come in and talk to us, that we have community meetings, and we allow you, the citizens of Wasatch County, to come and talk to your law enforcement and your sheriff. That's important to me. It's important to me to have the citizens be a part of our office, and I want you to have a voice. And I've enjoyed the opportunities I've had to go out in the community and interact with many of you. And I hope I get the opportunity to interact with you many, many more times to come. Get out and vote, June 23rd. That's the day.
Don't mail them in. Just walk them into your county, city, town hall, clerk, Charleston, Midway. Please don't mail them in. Anyway, Jeremy, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
All right. It's a wrap. Nice answers.
Bring them fields of green and gold, let their laughter echo clear. In a world so tightly wound, where can our children play? Bring them fields of green and gold, let their laughter echo clear. In a world so tightly wound, where can our children